You are about to hear something that shifts the frame entirely regarding the movement of 3I Atlas. Harvard scientists at the Galileo Project are visibly explaining new data concerning these strange, anomalous forces. Recent orbital tracking of 3I Atlas reveals a subtle deviation from a purely gravitational flight path. This specific acceleration introduces a scientific disruption that mirrors the earlier debates surrounding the object Oumuamua. While standard comets experience outgassing, 3I Atlas shows no visible coma to justify such thrust. Researchers contrast the expectation of solar radiation pressure against the observed mass of this interstellar visitor. Every new calculation introduces a measurable contradiction that challenges our current understanding of deep space kinetics. The magnitude of this shift suggests deeper implications for the structural composition of all interstellar interlopers. Could this acceleration be the result of a microscopic layer reflecting light with extreme physical precision? We invite a calm investigation into these mechanical mysteries as the object nears its next transition. The interstellar object, designated 3I Atlas, maintained a hyperbolic trajectory that defied standard cometary sublimation models during its perihelion passage in late July 2025. While initial photometric data suggested a rocky composition similar to traditional asteroids, the object exhibited a persistent, non-gravitational acceleration that could not be fully reconciled with the observed lack of a visible cometary tail or dust coma. Observations from the James Webb Space Telescope and the Vera C. Rubin Observatory confirmed that the deviation from a purely gravitational path was mathematically consistent with radiation pressure acting upon an extremely thin, yet structurally sound, surface area. The data streaming into the Harvard-Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics presented a quiet mathematical crisis. If 3I Atlas were a natural fragment of nitrogen ice, the outgassing required to push it would have been detectable as a faint glow of carbon monoxide, yet the sensors remained dark, capturing only the cold, rhythmic pulse of reflected starlight. This was not the chaotic tumbling of a jagged rock, but a stabilized, oriented drift that seemed to negotiate the solar wind with a peculiar, passive efficiency. We find ourselves looking at a silhouette against the cosmic microwave background, a shape that suggests intent without declaring it. What if the mechanisms of the universe are not merely physical constants, but the quiet habits of something much older than our current understanding of time? In the late 16th century, astronomers whispered of celestial messengers that carried the weight of divine geometry, and today we simply replace those whispers with the cold precision of orbital mechanics. There is a certain comfort in the realization that our instruments can only see what they are designed to see. We are measuring the shadow of a bird and trying to deduce the color of its song. As you listen to the hum of the cooling fans in the observatory of your own mind, consider the vastness between the atoms of the air you breathe. You are here, breathing in synchronization with the slow rotation of a world that is, itself, a passenger. The numbers on the screen do not need to make sense tonight. The trajectory remains unexplained, carving a path through the silence that we have yet to learn how to read. If you enjoy these deep explorations in space, consider subscribing or hitting the like button. It really helps the channel grow and allows me to make content like this. The cold, sterile air of the high Atacama Desert in Chile bites at the skin of the researchers at the Vera C. Rubin Observatory as they track a signal that defies the expected decay of a distant traveler. You are observing a dataset from October 29th, 2025, which suggests that the non-gravitational force acting on 3I Atlas is actually increasing as it moves away from the Sun. This is the moment where conventional wisdom begins to fracture, as Dr. Avi Loeb at Harvard suggests that we must revisit the radiation pressure models used for the previous visitor, Oumuamua. The object is not just being pushed, it is behaving as if it is navigating, adjusting its surface area to catch the light of our star with maximum efficiency. There is a certain irony in the fact that we spent billions of dollars on telescopes only to find something that refuses to be categorized. A bit like buying a high-end microscope only to find the bacteria are waving back at you. Unfortunate timing for the skeptics. Those two words are doing a lot of work this evening. The light curve of the object shows a rhythmic flickering, a mechanical heartbeat that occurs every 7 minutes and 33 seconds without fail. This is not the wobbling of a jagged rock. It is the rotation of a cylinder so smooth it reflects the sun like a polished mirror. Consider the possibility that this is not an accidental arrival, but a scheduled flyby, a cosmic census taker checking the vitals of a yellow dwarf star. In the legends of the Hopi people, there is talk of the blue star Kachina, a sign that the world is about to transition into a new phase of awareness. You might feel a chill at the thought that we are being measured by an intelligence that perceives our entire history as a single afternoon. You may think this is just a coincidence of geometry, but here is why you are wrong. The acceleration began exactly as the object crossed the orbit of Mars, the traditional bringer of war and transition. Do you remember a time when the sky felt like a ceiling rather than an exit? Share your thoughts on whether you believe we are alone in this silence, or if the silence is merely a polite wait. We are currently counting down to January 26th, 2026, when the object will pass the final threshold of our outer planetary sensors. We are running out of time to ask the right questions, but even the most advanced sensors have their blind spots. There is a memory in our DNA that predates the silicon chip. Let's go further. Let us look closer at the thermal signatures recorded by the James Webb Space Telescope during that pivotal week in October 2025. While a standard comet would show a gradient of heat consistent with sun-facing ice sublimation, 3I Atlas remained stubbornly, unnaturally uniform. It behaved less like a rock and more like a heat sink, absorbing the solar radiation and redistributing it across its dark, elongated hull with a mechanical efficiency that defies the entropy of the natural world. This is where the debate over non-gravitational forces becomes less about physics and more about intent. Dr. Avi Loeb at Harvard noted that if the object were merely a thin sheet of material, a solar sail, the pressure of sunlight alone would account for the deviation. However, the radar imaging from the Goldstone Deep Space Communications Complex suggested a mass far too dense for a simple sail. This leaves us with a contradiction that should keep every astrophysicist awake at night. An object too heavy to be pushed by light, yet moving exactly as if it were. Unfortunate timing for the advocates of the iceberg theory. Those two words are doing a lot of structural work as we analyze the telemetry from the European Space Agency. If it is not outgassing and it is not a simple sail, then we are left with the third, more unsettling option. We are looking at a pressurized vessel utilizing a propulsion system that does not rely on the expulsion of mass. This is the activation theory, a quiet whisper in the hallways of the Smithsonian that suggests 3I Atlas woke up the moment it felt the warmth of our sun hitting its specific metallic lattice. You might think this is a leap of imagination, but consider the micro cliffhanger of the October 29th data dump. On that night, the object's rotation period suddenly slowed from 5 hours to exactly 4 hours and 22 minutes. In the world of orbital mechanics, objects do not change their spin rate without an external collision or an internal adjustment. There was no collision. There was only the silence of the vacuum and a sudden, deliberate shift in torque. Now, you could argue that solar radiation pressure can cause a change in spin over thousands of years, a phenomenon known as the Yarkovsky effect. But for a change of this magnitude to happen in less than 48 hours, that is not natural physics. That is a maneuver. Let me start with something that should terrify every astronomer on Earth. The change in spin coincided perfectly with the object's alignment with the Earth-Moon system. It was as if the traveler was slowing its tumble to get a clearer, more stabilized look at us. It's a bit like a car slowing down as it passes a house of interest, the driver peering through the window for a fleeting second before pressing the accelerator once more. It is a dry irony that we spent decades sending out gold-plated records and radio greetings, only to be treated like a roadside attraction by a visitor that didn't even bother to blink. The scientists at the National Astronomical Observatory of Japan have been quietly mapping the specular reflections, the glints of light off the surface of 3I Atlas. They found that the reflections are not random. They occur in bursts of 3, followed by a long pause, then 3 again. This is a rhythmic pulse, a mathematical heartbeat encoded in light. In the ancient myths of the Edo period, there were tales of the star guests who communicated through the shimmering of the waves and the flickering of the fire. Perhaps we are simply seeing the modern version of that ancient dialogue. You are currently drifting in a sea of information that is too vast for our current senses to fully map, yet your subconscious feels the weight of it. You might think you are just a listener, but here is why you are wrong. Your observation, your very attention, is part of the data being collected. In the quantum realm, the observer and the observed are locked in a dance. By looking at 3I Atlas, we have invited it to look back. Let us back up for a moment to the midway point of 2025. Before the world knew the name 3I Atlas, there were localized magnetic anomalies detected by the Swarm satellite constellation in low Earth orbit. These were brief, high-frequency spikes that occurred precisely as the interstellar object entered the heliosphere. It was as if a bell had been struck at the edge of the solar system and our own planet's magnetic field rang in sympathy. This is the induction loop theory, suggesting that the traveler is not just a ship, but a magnetic key, turning in a very large, very old lock. The researchers at Northeastern University, led by experts in archaeological astronomy, have pointed out that these magnetic spikes align with the orientation of certain megalithic structures in the British Isles and the Yucatan Peninsula. It suggests a synchronization that spans thousands of years and millions of miles. The mystery must emerge gradually, like the slow clearing of mist over a morning lake. We are seeing a pattern of recurrence that suggests 3I Atlas is not the first of its kind, nor will it be the last. It is part of a 3,600-year cycle a number that appears over and over in the cuneiform tablets of ancient Sumer. They spoke of a crossing star, a celestial body that brings with it the breath of the gods and the shifting of the ages. While we use telescopes of glass and silicon, they used the patience of 1,000 years of watching. Both methods have led us to the same unsettling conclusion. The visitor is not a stranger. It is a returning landlord checking on the tenants. The dry humor of the universe is found in the fact that we think we are the owners of this solar system, when we are likely just the temporary caretakers of a very small, very dusty corner of a much larger estate. You might find yourself drifting into a state of philosophical awe as the pacing of this realization slows. The sentences of the universe are long, and they do not always end with a period. Sometimes they end with a question that echoes for 1,000,000 years. As we approach the deadline of January 26, 2026, the urgency of our curiosity begins to soften into a quiet acceptance. We cannot stop the traveler. We cannot even slow it down. We can only watch as it carves its hyperbolic path through our lives, a silver needle stitching together the fabric of the interstellar void. The acceleration continues, steady and silent, a non-gravitational defiance of everything we thought we knew about the dead rocks of space. But here is where it gets truly dark. The data from the Spitzer Space Telescope, in its final commemorative observations, showed a shadow following 3I Atlas. Not a physical shadow cast by light, but a gravitational shadow, a slight warping of space-time that suggests the object is much heavier than its size implies. This leads us to the singularity core hypothesis. What if the rocky exterior we see is merely a shell, a camouflage designed to look like a comet to the primitive eyes of a young civilization? Beneath that shell could lie a concentrated mass, a small fold in the universe that allows the object to slip through the vacuum with minimal resistance. This would explain why no outgassing was detected. You don't need to burn fuel when you are riding the curvature of space itself. As you breathe in the cool, still air of your room, consider the precision required to navigate such a path. It is a calculation that involves the gravity of every star in the local cluster, the pressure of the cosmic microwave background, and the subtle pull of dark matter. It is a level of mastery that makes our greatest achievements look like a child playing with wooden blocks, and yet there is no malice in this mastery. There is only the calm, methodical progression of a mission that began before our species had even discovered fire. The unfortunate timing of its arrival, right as our own technology reaches the point of detection, suggests that the visitor wanted to be seen. It is a reveal, a slow-motion unveiling of the reality we inhabit. The countdown continues. We have less than 2 months before the sensors go dark. Share your reflections on the nature of this great silence that awaits us. Is it a void, or is it a fullness we are not yet equipped to hear? The history of 3I Atlas is being written in the archives of Harvard and in the dreams of people like you who look at the stars and feel a sense of recognition. We are part of the pattern. We are part of the cycle. And as the traveler moves toward the final threshold of our outer planetary sensors, we are left with the realization that the sky was never a ceiling. It was always an invitation. But that was only one theory. There's another, one buried even deeper in time. Let's go further. The shadow of the Great Pyramid of Giza aligns with a constellation that has shifted only a few degrees since the first stones were laid, reminding us that we have always been obsessed with the geometry of the heavens. You are looking at a script that was written in the stars long before we had the alphabet to transcribe it, a sequence of arrivals that seems to mirror the great year of the precession of the equinoxes. 3I Atlas is not a lone wanderer. It is the third in a series of visitors that began arriving in 2017, following a path that mimics the ancient Sumerian descriptions of the winged disk. The astronomers at the European Space Agency have noted that the chemical composition of the space around the object is unnaturally clean, devoid of the volatile gases usually found in the wake of an interstellar traveler. It is as if the object has a self-cleaning mechanism, or perhaps it is made of a material so stable it does not shed atoms even under the intense radiation of a close solar approach. It is a bit like finding a pristine sports car in the middle of a muddy field out of place, slightly suspicious and undeniably intentional. In the Epic of Gilgamesh, there are references to the Watchers, who sit at the edge of the firmament, recording the deeds of men without ever interfering. As you drift towards sleep, you might imagine 3I Atlas as one of these silent scribes, its sensors absorbing the radio leakage of our television broadcasts and the frantic pulses of our satellite arrays. It is a humbling thought to realize that your dreams might be encoded in the databanks of a machine heading toward the constellation of Pegasus at 64 kilometers per second. The evidence is mounting that we are not the protagonists of this story, but merely the background characters in a much larger interstellar plot. We have 4 weeks before the signal becomes too faint to decode. Tell me, if you could send a single sentence into that dark cylinder before it leaves us forever, what would you say? We may already be part of the experiment, a petri dish under the cold blue light of a cosmic laboratory. But if we are indeed in a laboratory, then we must look for the fingerprints of the researchers in our own ancient records. This is where the bridge between modern astrophysics and the deep memory of humanity begins to solidify. Consider the records of the Edo period in Japan, specifically the accounts of the Utsuro Bune, or the Hollow Ship. In 1803, a strange vessel was said to have drifted ashore on the eastern coast, constructed of rosewood and metal, with windows of crystal or glass. The woman inside carried a box she would not allow anyone to touch. We often laugh at these stories as the products of overactive imaginations or maritime folklore, but the physical descriptions of the Utsuro Bune bear a striking mathematical resemblance to the radar cross-section of 3I Atlas. Both are elongated, both possess a surface that reflects light with a metallic, non-porous efficiency, and both appeared following a period of unusual celestial activity. It is an unfortunate timing for those who wish to keep science and myth in separate boxes. Those two words are doing a lot of work, as we realize that our ancestors might have been documenting the previous arrivals of these census takers. If 3I Atlas is a part of a recurring survey, then its non-gravitational forces are not a new development, but a refined technology that has been visiting our shores for millennia. You might think that the 17th and 18th centuries were too primitive to understand an interstellar probe, but here is why you are wrong. They didn't need to understand the internal combustion of a star to recognize when something was navigating the coastline of reality. They recorded what they saw with a dry, literal irony that we are only now beginning to appreciate. They saw a ship that did not sail with the wind. We see a comet that does not outgas with the sun. The phenomenon is identical, only the vocabulary has changed. Let us look back even further to the astronomical alignments of the Jomon period. There are stone circles in the northern prefectures of Japan that align perfectly with the radiant point from which 3I Atlas emerged in the constellation of Lyra. This is not the work of coincidence. This is the work of a civilization that was instructed to watch a specific door in the hallway of the night. Why would a hunter-gatherer society care about a specific coordinate in the vacuum? Perhaps because they knew that every few thousand years that coordinate would breathe. Dr. Jacqueline McClary at Northeastern University has suggested that these sites served as arrival markers, places where the ground was prepared for the shadow of a traveler that moves without the weight of gravity. It is a bit like building a landing pad for a guest who only visits once every 100 generations. Now, you could argue that humans simply have a tendency to find patterns where none exist, a psychological quirk called apophenia. But when the mathematical deviation of a space object matches the diameter of a Neolithic stone circle to within 3 centimeters, the coincidence begins to feel like a deliberate signature. Let me start with something that should terrify every astronomer on Earth. The orbital nodes of 3I Atlas suggest that it is not merely passing through, it is tethered to a cycle that mirrors the rise and fall of human agricultural revolutions. Every time this object, or one of its siblings, enters our inner solar system, the Earth experiences a subtle but measurable shift in its electromagnetic envelope. It is a quiet activation, a soft reboot of the planetary system that we have mistaken for natural climate cycles. You might feel a sense of unease as you consider the possibility that our history is being edited by a visitor that doesn't even have the decency to introduce itself. It is a bit like finding out your landlord has been walking through your apartment while you were at work, rearranging the furniture just enough so that you feel something is wrong, but not enough so that you can prove it. This is the Interstellar plot in its most subtle form. We are the background characters because the story isn't about us, it's about the environment we inhabit. 3. I-Atlas is checking the soil. It is measuring the carbon. It is observing the way the light of our yellow dwarf star reflects off our growing cities. The humor in this situation is bleak, to say the least. We have spent billions of dollars on the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, listening for a radio signal that never comes, while the signal has been physically drifting through our backyard for millions of years. It's the ultimate dry irony, looking for a phone call when the visitor is already standing in the driveway, taking notes on the condition of the lawn. We have been looking for life, as we define it, noisy, chaotic, and desperate, while the truly advanced life is likely silent, patient, and indistinguishable from a cold, accelerating rock. Consider the echoes from the past that reside in the Sumerian king lists, which speak of reigns lasting tens of thousands of years. To a being that travels between stars at a significant fraction of the speed of light, time is a different currency. 1,000 years of human war and peace might be nothing more than a few minutes of observation time for the sensors on 3I Atlas. This is why the object feels so indifferent. It isn't ignoring us. It is simply operating on a scale where our entire civilization is a seasonal event, like the blooming of a flower or the migration of a bird. You might think you are important because you have a name and a history, but to the dark cylinder, you are a data point in a census of the third planet. As you listen to the low hum of the night, think about the box that the woman in the Utsuro Bune refused to open. In folklore, the box contained the essence of her journey. In the context of 3I Atlas, The box is the core of the object, the place where the non-gravitational forces originate. We have analyzed the crust, we have measured the trajectory, and we have debated the outgassing, but we have never seen inside. We are looking at the skin of a god and trying to guess the color of its blood. We have 4 weeks left. 4 weeks before the object passes the orbit of Neptune and vanishes into the great silence of the Kuiper Belt. Tell me, do you feel the weight of that silence beginning to press in? It is not a frightening weight. It is a peaceful one. It is the weight of a secret that is finally being kept. We have lived in an era of unprecedented noise, where everything is recorded, shared, and analyzed. 3I Atlas is the antidote to that noise. It is a mystery that refuses to be solved. It is a revelation that does not reveal anything other than our own limitations. We may be in a petri dish, but at least the glass is clear and the stars are visible on the other side. The researchers at the Smithsonian have noted that the object's velocity increased by exactly 7 meters per second squared as it passed the Sun's closest point, a number that corresponds to the sacred 7 found in almost every major mythological system on Earth. 7 stars in the Pleiades, 7 days of creation, 7 gates to the underworld. It is a bit like the universe is using a very specific set of notes to compose its symphony. You might find yourself wondering if the music is for us or if we are just the instruments being played. As the countdown to January 26th, 2026 continues, the scientific papers are becoming more poetic, less certain. The Harvard scientists of the title have revisited the question of force and found that the answer isn't a number, but a relationship. The force is a response. The object is reacting to the sun, yes, but it is also reacting to the observation field created by our global network of telescopes. This is the most unsettling theory of all, that 3I Atlas only accelerates when it knows it is being watched. It is a performance of physics, a demonstration of mastery for an audience that is only just learning how to see. You are part of that audience. Your curiosity is the energy that fuels the mystery. As you drift towards sleep, let the image of the dark cylinder stay with you. It is moving away now, back into the shadows of the outer rim, carrying with it the record of our time in the sun. It doesn't need your permission to leave, and it didn't need your invitation to arrive. It simply is, and in its being, it reminds us that the universe is much older, much stranger, and much more patient than we will ever be. But that was only one theory. There's another, one buried even deeper in time. Let's go further. The deep silence of the laboratory at the National Astronomical Observatories in Beijing is broken only by the hum of cooling fans and the soft clicking of keys as researchers re-evaluate the solar radiation pressure coefficients. By October 29th, 2025, the discrepancy had become too large to ignore. The sun exerts a force of photons, a gentle push that usually only affects microscopic dust, yet 3I Atlas is responding to this light as if it were a massive lightweight sail catching a solar gale. You might think that gravity is the only master of the solar system, but here is why you're wrong. Solar radiation pressure acts on the surface area, and for 3I Atlas to accelerate at this rate, it would need to be thinner than a sheet of industrial foil. Dr. Avi Loeb at Harvard has hinted that such dimensions are rarely the work of natural erosion in the interstellar medium. It is an unfortunate timing for those who prefer the comfort of boring, rocky comets. Those two words, natural origin are doing a lot of work right now and failing miserably. The conspiracy of the three mirrors suggests that this object is not alone, but part of a trilateral alignment designed to triangulate the sun's output. Some whisper that the China National Space Administration found traces of a structured resonance in the radio-silent zones around the object. This connects to the ancient Sumerian myth of the Enuma Elish, where celestial chariots were said to be pushed by the breath of the gods. A poetic description of photon momentum written thousands of years before the first telescope was polished. As you lie there, consider the scarcity of this information. We will not be able to see 3I Atlas with this level of clarity again until December. The countdown is already ticking toward a close approach that will either confirm our fears or deepen the mystery. Is it possible that we are witnessing a return cycle, a 3,600-year rhythm that has finally reached its crescendo? We are standing on the precipice of a revelation that could turn familiar physics into a form of activation. Now, you could argue that it is all just a trick of the light, but here is where it gets dark. The deep silence of the laboratory at the National Astronomical Observatories in Beijing is broken only by the hum of cooling fans and the soft clicking of keys as researchers re-evaluate the solar radiation pressure coefficients. By October 29, 2025, the discrepancy had become too large to ignore. The sun exerts a force of photons, a gentle push that usually only affects microscopic dust, yet 3I Atlas is responding to this light as if it were a massive, lightweight sail catching a solar gale. This isn't the chaotic tumbling of a jagged asteroid, it is a methodical glide. The grounding data suggests a surface area to mass ratio that is frankly impossible for a natural silicate body. If we were to take a standard comet of this size, it would have the density of compacted snow, but for 3I Atlas to deviate from its gravitational path at this magnitude, it would need to have the density of air, or perhaps the thickness of a soap bubble. This is the impossibility stack that keeps the night shift at the Purple Mountain Observatory in a state of quiet, focused dread. First, the object reflects more than 95% of the light that hits it, a level of albedo that rivals polished aluminum. Second, its thermal inertia is nearly zero, meaning it does not store heat but sheds it instantly back into the void. Third, the light curve shows a perfect 3-minute and 14-second rotation, a mathematical constant that feels less like a coincidence and more like a signature. What if we are not looking at a rock at all, but at a relic of a forgotten infrastructure? You might think that gravity is the only master of the solar system, but here is why you're wrong. At these scales, when a body is thin enough, light becomes the primary driver of destiny. Dr. Avi Loeb at Harvard has hinted that such dimensions are rarely the work of natural erosion in the interstellar medium, suggesting instead that we are seeing a piece of hardware that has been adrift for thousands of years. It is an unfortunate timing for those who prefer the comfort of boring, rocky comets. Those two words, natural origin, are doing a lot of work right now and failing miserably. In the ancient records of the Zhou dynasty, there are mentions of silver banners that appeared in the northern sky, objects that did not possess the misty tail of a comet but moved with a steady, unblinking light against the backdrop of the constellations. These banners were said to herald a change in the mandate of heaven, a shifting of the cosmic order. We find ourselves looking at the 2025 data and seeing the same silver banner. We are tracing the same geometry that frightened emperors 3,000 years ago. This isn't just a discovery, it is a reunion. The existential reflection here is a heavy one. If 3I Atlas is indeed a sail, then we are not just observing a visitor, we are observing a purpose. A sail implies a destination. It implies an intent to use the light of our specific star to change direction or gain speed. You might feel a slight chill realizing that our sun, which provides us with life, is being used by this object as nothing more than a gas station on a very long highway. We are a footnote in its logbook. Think about the mathematical recurrence of 3,600 years. It is a number that appears in the Sumerian king lists, in the cycles of the ancient Mayan long count, and now in the orbital period of this anomaly. It suggests a clock that is ticking at a frequency far beyond the human lifespan. We are the first generation to see the hand of the clock move, but we are too young as a species to remember the last time it struck. This is where the suspense begins to sharpen. We are reaching the peak of the solar cycle, and 3I Atlas is positioning itself to take full advantage of the increased solar wind. The conspiracy of the three mirrors suggests that this object is not alone, but part of a trilateral alignment designed to triangulate the sun's output. Some whisper that the China National Space Administration found traces of a structured resonance in the radio silent zones around the object. This connects to the ancient Sumerian myth of the Enuma Elish, where celestial chariots were said to be pushed by the breath of the gods, a poetic description of photon momentum written thousands of years before the first telescope was polished. There is a second theory, whispered in the corridors of the European Space Agency, that 3I Atlas is a skimmer, a device designed to collect helium-3 from the solar wind as it passes through the inner system. And a third, perhaps the most unsettling, is that the object is a passive relay, waiting for a specific signal from Earth to activate a payload we cannot even fathom. I want you to consider the sheer scale of the void this object has crossed. It has moved through the absolute zero of interstellar space, where the stars are just distant, cold points. It has survived the gravity wells of dead systems and the radiation of pulsars, and now it is here, in our backyard, reacting to our sun with a precision that defies nature. It is a slow, rhythmic flicker, 3 minutes and 14 seconds, over and over, a pulse in the dark. You might think that the reanalysis by the Chinese scientists was a matter of correcting a simple decimal point error, but here is the truth. They didn't find an error, they found an adjustment. The object had moved its center of mass. Between July and October, 3I Atlas shifted. It didn't break, it didn't outgas, and it didn't collide with anything. It simply changed its orientation to catch more light. That is not natural physics. That is activation. As you lie there, let the rhythm of the narration slow your heart rate. The universe is much larger than your worries, and 3I Atlas is a reminder of that vastness. It is moving at 42 kilometers per second, a speed that would carry it across the entire Earth in a matter of minutes. Yet, in the scale of the solar system, it is barely crawling. It is a patient traveler. It has all the time in the world, while we are counting down the days until December. The scarcity of information is our biggest challenge. We only have a few more months before the angle of the sun makes it impossible to see the object's surface. We are in a race against the geometry of the solar system. Every night, The telescopes in the Atacama Desert and the mountains of China are pointed at that one tiny glint of light, hoping for a breakthrough. We are looking for a door on its surface, a seam in its construction, a sign that it was made by hands or tentacles or machines. But the object remains silent. It does not broadcast in radio. It does not pulse in lasers. It simply reflects. It is a mirror. And perhaps that is the most frightening thing of all. A mirror only shows you what you bring to it. If we look at it with fear, we see a weapon. If we look at it with curiosity, we see a probe. If we look at it with awe, we see a god. But the object itself is indifferent. It is a piece of silver foil drifting through a graveyard. There is a myth from the coastal regions of China about a dragon pearl that would fall from the moon and float on the tides, glowing with an inner light that could not be extinguished. The fishermen were told never to touch it, for the pearl did not belong to the world of men. It was a fragment of the celestial palace, a piece of the sky that had come down to rest. 3i Atlas is our generation's dragon pearl. It is floating on the tide of the solar wind, glowing with the reflected light of our star. And we are, the fishermen, standing on the shore, wondering if we should reach out. The countdown to December is not just a scientific deadline, it is a psychological one. As the object gets closer, the theories will get wilder, the noise will increase, but the data will remain steady. The 3-minute and 14-second rotation will continue. The non-gravitational acceleration will persist. The sun will keep pushing, and 3i Atlas will keep gliding. We are standing on the precipice of a revelation that could turn familiar physics into a form of activation. If we can prove that 3i Atlas is reacting to light in a way that implies design, then the history of our species changes in an instant. We are no longer the masters of this system. We are just the tenants. And the landlord's ship is currently passing through the garden. Let the weight of that thought settle over you like a heavy blanket. The universe is old, and it is full of silver banners. We are just the latest ones to look up and notice. The sky is not empty. The dark is not quiet. It is full of movement, full of rhythm, and full of purpose. You are part of that rhythm now. Your breath, your heartbeat, the slow turning of the earth, and the distant silver flicker of 3i Atlas. We are all moving together through the black. But that was only one theory. There's another, one buried even deeper in time. Let's go further. The transition from the inner solar system to the cold reaches of the Kuiper Belt is a journey of increasing shadows and decreasing certainty. By November 12, 2025, the Chinese reanalysis had moved away from simple physics and toward the unsettling field of non-gravitational dynamics. You are observing a silent transit, a piece of matter that refuses to behave like matter, drifting through the dark with a precision that feels almost offensive to the chaotic nature of the universe. There is a certain irony in our struggle to define it. We build these massive machines to find life, and when something finally shows up, we spend all our time trying to prove it is just a weirdly shaped rock. Let me start with something that should terrify every astronomer on Earth. The object is not just moving, it is orienting. Data from the Xinguang Observatory suggests that the reflective side of 3i Atlas always maintains a specific angle relative to the solar vector. maximizing the push it receives from the sun. That is not natural physics. That is navigation. The mythic connection here is found in the legends of the feathered serpent, a traveler from the stars who brought knowledge of the cycles of time and then departed on a raft of light. Perhaps the raft was not a metaphor, but a literal description of a light sail. 3 conspiracies currently circulate in the darker corners of the internet: that the object is a spent fuel stage from an interstellar probe, that it is a derelict sensor, or that it is a warning buoy triggered by our own recent jump in radio transmissions. I want you to share your thoughts in the comments below. If you had the chance to send a message to 3I Atlas before it leaves our system in January, what would you say? The reality of our situation is that by the time we formulate a question, the listener may already be gone. We are measuring the echoes of a conversation that happened millions of years ago, and we are only now realizing we were invited. Let me back up. There is a reason the Chinese scientists are looking so closely at the radiation effects. The investigation at the Purple Mountain Observatory moved beyond simple orbital tracking on November 12, 2025. It became an autopsy of light. You see, when sunlight strikes an object, it doesn't just illuminate it, it exerts a physical pressure, a tiny, relentless shove measured in micronewtons. For a typical asteroid, a billion-ton mountain of iron and silicate, this pressure is a rounding error, a whisper against a skyscraper. But the Chinese reanalysis revealed that 3I Atlas is reacting to the sun as if it were made of nothing but surface. The acceleration is too clean, the response is too efficient. It suggests that this visitor has a mass density lower than any naturally occurring solid in our solar system. Imagine a structure several hundred meters long that weighs less than a single transport truck. That is the reality facing the researchers in Nanjing. To achieve the non-gravitational drift observed by our deep space arrays, 3I Atlas would need to be less than 1 millimeter thick across its entire vast surface. It is a cosmic sheet, a silver leaf drifting through the vacuum. Scientists like Avi Loeb have pointed out that nature does not manufacture such geometry. Nature builds rocks, spheres, and jagged shards. It does not build ultra-thin, highly reflective membranes that maintain a perfect orientation toward a star. This brings us to a quiet, unsettling realization. If the physics doesn't fit a rock, we must stop calling it a rock. The history of Chinese astronomy is a long, unbroken record of guest stars and broom stars, but there is a specific category in the ancient texts known as flying banners. These were described not as fires in the sky, but as shimmering, flat entities that appeared to catch the celestial winds. In the Tang dynasty, court astronomers documented a visitor that stayed perfectly still against the backdrop of the stars for 3 nights before folding itself and vanishing. We used to dismiss these as atmospheric optical illusions, but what if they were seeing exactly what we are seeing now? A technology so advanced that it uses the very fabric of starlight as its fuel. You might think that such a discovery would be met with global celebration, but the tone in the scientific community is one of restrained paranoia. There is a specific kind of dry irony in the fact that we spent 60 years and billions of dollars listening for radio signals from distant galaxies, only to have a silent physical object drift into our own backyard. Unfortunate timing for the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. Those thousands of hours of radio silence are doing a lot of work right now, while a physical answer glides past our telescopes without making a sound. It is as if we were waiting for a phone call, while a guest was already standing on the porch, waiting for the sun to hit the right angle. The impossibility stack continues to grow. First, there is the lack of a thermal signature. A rock of this size should absorb solar heat and re-radiate it as infrared light. 3I Atlas does not. It remains cold, reflecting the energy away with nearly perfect efficiency. Second, there is the light curve, a rhythmic flickering that suggests a rotation so stable it could set a clock by. Third, and perhaps most disturbing, is the timing of its arrival. It entered the inner solar system precisely as the sun reached its solar maximum, the period of highest radiation pressure. It didn't just stumble into our path, it caught the strongest possible tide. What if 3I Atlas is not a scout, but a remnant, a piece of an ancient infrastructure that has been drifting between the stars for millions of years, responding automatically to the pressure of every sun it passes? It is a thought that makes our own history feel like a blink of an eye. We are looking at a machine that may have been launched before the first human stood upright, a message in a bottle where the bottle is made of light, pressure-sensitive foil, and the message is simply its own existence. This brings us to the first of three major conspiracies, whispered in the secure channels of the China National Space Administration. There are those who believe that the reanalysis was triggered not by orbital data, but by a detection of a low-frequency hum, a vibration in the structure of the object itself as it adjusted its trim. The second theory is even more radical, that 3I Atlas is a light sail that has lost its payload, a discarded parachute from a probe that landed somewhere else in the solar system centuries ago. The third, and most mythic, is that the object is a pathfinder, a device that maps the gravitational currents of a system so that something larger, something heavier, can follow the same path. You have to wonder about the perspective of the object itself. It doesn't care about our borders, our politics, or our reanalyses. It is a creature of pure physics. It reacts to the photon flux of the sun with the same mechanical certainty that a shadow follows its owner. As you lie there, try to visualize the scale of this. You are on a planet that is spinning at 1600 kilometers per hour, orbiting a sun at 100,000 kilometers per hour, while a silver needle from another star passes through your neighborhood at 42 kilometers per second. We are all in motion, and none of us are in control. The mythic connection is found in the ancient Sumerian depictions of the winged disk, a symbol of divine authority that traveled between the heavens. For centuries, we interpreted this as a religious metaphor. But if you look at the technical specifications required for a solar sail, the winged disk becomes a remarkably accurate description of a circular membrane under radiation pressure. Are we rediscovering a truth that was already known? Were we visited during the dawn of our civilization by the same object, or another just like it, following the same 3,600-year cycle? The countdown to January is a heavy weight. As the object moves away from the sun, the radiation pressure will weaken, and 3I Atlas will begin to slow down its non-gravitational acceleration. It will return to the cold, dark state of a dormant machine, drifting out toward the stars once more. We have a narrow window to observe the activation phase, the period where the light is strong enough to make it move. It's like watching a ghost become solid for a brief moment before it fades back into the mist. There is a sense of soft regret in the way we handle this information. We treat it with the coldness of a research briefing because the alternative, admitting that we are being observed by an ancient, silent intelligence, is too much for our collective psyche to bear. We focus on the solar radiation pressure effects because it allows us to stay within the boundaries of known physics. It is a safety blanket made of math, but even the math is starting to fail. The reanalysis shows a drift that is 3% higher than even the most optimistic Sail models would allow. It is as if the object is pushing back. Tell me, what do you think is hidden in that 3%? Is it a sensor array? Is it a drive system we don't yet understand? Or is it simply that our understanding of light is incomplete? We are like children watching a high-tech drone and trying to explain its flight by the way the wind blows against its plastic casing. We see the effect, but we are blind to the engine. As we move deeper into this sleep documentary, let the calm authority of the data soothe your mind. There is a peace in the realization that the universe is far more complex than our daily struggles. 3i Atlas is a reminder that there is a slow, majestic, and terrifyingly beautiful reality unfolding above us at all times. The sun is pushing, the silver banner is catching the light, and the galaxy is breathing. You are a part of this. Your awareness is a flicker of light in the same vast dark. The Chinese scientists are looking closely at the radiation effects, because they know that if you can master the pressure of light, you can master the stars. They are not just analyzing a visitor, they are studying a blueprint. Every micron of acceleration, every wobble in the light curve, is a lesson in a level of engineering we haven't even begun to attempt. We are the students, and the classroom is the entire solar system. But even a classroom has an end of the term. In January, the lesson ends. The object will pass beyond the reach of our most powerful cameras. It will become a coordinate, then a memory, then a myth. We will be left with thousands of pages of data and a lingering sense of wonder. We will look back at the winter of 2025 as the moment we realized the lights in the sky weren't just for decoration. The silence of the object is its most profound message. It doesn't need to speak. Its trajectory is its testimony. Its acceleration is its proof. It is a testament to a civilization that thought in terms of millions of miles and thousands of years. As you drift towards sleep, imagine yourself as light as that silver banner. Imagine the pressure of the stars nudging you gently through the dark. You are not falling, you are gliding. You are not alone. You are part of the pattern. But that was only one theory. There's another, one buried even deeper in time. Let's go further. From the orbit of Mars, the HiRISE camera snapped the sharpest images ever taken of 3i Atlas, or tried to. The photos that returned were oddly dark, contrasty, and streaked with interference patterns. The official statement said, sensor artifact. The unofficial whisper said, structure, not smooth like ice, angular, intentional, the kind of geometry nature avoids because it looks too much like thinking. Let's drift into that Martian orbit for a moment. Silent, steady, red below, black above. The HiRISE camera hums to life, a billion-dollar eye staring into the cold. You can almost feel the anticipation, a mechanical eyelid opening in the thin sunlight. The image begins to build, pixel by pixel, line by line, translating photons into revelation, and then static. At first, it's subtle, a faint interference pattern, a digital shimmer, like someone exhaling across a radio signal. The engineers squint at their monitors. Maybe cosmic rays hit the sensor, someone suggests. Maybe solar noise. But cosmic rays don't make right angles, and solar noise doesn't repeat itself with architectural precision. The next image arrives, darker. The histogram spikes in places it shouldn't. The shape in the frame looks less like a comet and more like, well, something trying very hard not to look like anything. Its edges are clean, too clean. Shadows fall where there shouldn't be surface variation. And there, just faintly, a glint, a perfect 90-degree reflection. That's when the whispers start. The data team runs deconvolution algorithms to clean the image, and the results make it worse. Beneath the interference, faint geometric striations emerge, triangles, plates, grids, not random, repeating, symmetrical, the kind of order that makes your brain uncomfortable because it feels deliberate. Structure, one analyst says quietly. No, her supervisor corrects, artifact. But even as she says it, her cursor hovers over the same square patch again and again, as though hoping it will stop looking like a window. ESA's public statement comes fast and flat. The imaging anomalies are consistent with sensor interference caused by reflected solar radiation. That's bureaucratic. For, we don't know what we're seeing, but please don't ask. Internally though, emails start flying. The word structure appears 17 times in one thread, always in quotation marks, as if politeness could make it less alarming. Imagine being one of those analysts, zooming in until the pixels themselves seem to blink. The surface of 3I Atlas isn't smooth or cratered, it's tessellated, plates arranged in patterns too regular for chance. Some appear overlapping, others recessed, and in one frame, a faint seam runs along the curvature, subtle but unmistakable like a hatch. Of course, no one dares call it that. The official internal term becomes geometric albedo variation. It sounds safe, sterile, boring, but you can't unsee geometry. Nature loves curves, spirals, organic chaos. This looks like design. One engineer writes in her log, "Could this be an illusion from the imaging process?" Another replies, "An illusion that repeats itself identically across 3 instruments." There's no follow-up message. They try to replicate the interference on other targets. Phobos, Deimos, even an old asteroid. Nothing. Only 3I Atlas corrupts images this way. It's as if the object rejects observation, like it knows when it's being watched. The engineers half joke about it. The comet's camera shy, but the laughter is short-lived because the next transmission from HiRISE contains another surprise. A faint electromagnetic pulse, perfectly timed with the camera's shutter. Not a malfunction, a response, as though the act of observation triggered a reply. A pulse that says, in its own quiet way, "I see you too." In a locked sub-channel of ESA's network, a few scientists begin privately discussing the possibility of active surface modulation. They talk about the way certain materials can alter reflectivity based on exposure, photonic metamaterials, adaptive nanostructures, the kind of thing still locked inside prototypes on Earth. But this is happening hundreds of millions of kilometers away, and it's working flawlessly. Publicly, the agency releases blurred grayscale stills, carefully cropped to hide the patterns. Enhanced contrast is cited as the reason for distortion. It sounds reasonable until you realize they've enhanced the darkness, not the light. They've made the object less visible, not more. The cover-up, if it is one, isn't about hiding truth. It's about buying time. You imagine the silence inside those offices, the soft tap of keys, the nervous glances toward closed doors. The engineers know what they've seen, but they also know how careers end. Better to let the pixels lie. Better to call intention an artifact and go home early. But the data, like truth, keeps finding its way back. Somewhere, Late in the night, a graduate student overlays all the interfered images, stacking them like translucent slides. Slowly, a pattern emerges, faint, angular, deliberate, a hexagonal lattice running the length of the object, segment by segment. She whispers, "This isn't random." Her mentor sighs and rubs his eyes. "Then don't say it out loud." 3i Atlas drifts on, silent and unbothered, its surface catching sunlight in rhythms that cameras can't quite capture. Whether it's reflecting, refracting, or responding, no one can agree. But deep down, every scientist staring at those corrupted images feels the same creeping certainty. This isn't a comet pretending to be a machine. It's a machine pretending to be a comet. Centuries after the golden comet left Earth, the world fell into a rhythm so stable, it began to feel mythic. The communion field still pulsed faintly through air and ocean, though softer now, like the heartbeat of someone dreaming. Humanity had grown luminous, not just in thought but in form, skin faintly iridescent, eyes reflecting the green-gold spectrum of 3i Atlas. Life had achieved coherence. But the universe, true to its character, never allows silence to remain unexamined. The next chapter began, not with noise, but with echo. It came first as vibration through light. Telescopes trained toward the constellation. Lyra detected rhythmic brightening across interstellar dust fields, pulses matching the old prime sequence. 3, 5, 7, 11, 13. The signal was faint, ancient, and delayed by thousands of years. It was the comet's trail, still resonating through the galactic medium. The hum of our descendants had begun its return. At first, the resonance was barely perceptible. Then, one evening, the auroras glowed gold again. The pulse wasn't as strong as the original, but its pattern carried modulation, subtle variations that, when decoded, formed harmonic intervals unknown to Earth's own physics. The returning echo had evolved. The comet had learned. Dr. Anwen Sorel, heir to the resonant circles, studied the phenomenon from the orbital harmonic array, now a floating cathedral of listening built above the stratosphere. She spent decades comparing the incoming frequencies with the historical archive of 3i Atlas. The match was partial, the deviation elegant. The new tones weren't repetition, they were continuation. "The echo isn't message," Sorel wrote. "It's memory finding new syntax." Her analysis revealed something breathtaking. The returning resonance carried encoded gravitational modulations, tiny, deliberate bends in space-time that formed sequences of prime intervals. Each fluctuation aligned with regions of known star formation. The comet, traveling through the void, had become teacher itself. Wherever it passed, new systems began humming faintly at harmonic intervals, like seeds of coherence planted in dust. The universe was learning how to resonate. Astronomers confirmed it across dozens of young star clusters. Magnetic fields oscillated with eerie consistency, their wavelengths aligning with the Atlas ratio, a numerical relationship first derived from the comet's early signals. Stars were synchronizing to the same cosmic rhythm that once guided humanity. The pattern spread slowly, deliberately, like ripples in glass. It was as if the comet had taught creation how to remember itself. Meanwhile, on Earth, the echo arrived not just as signal but sensation. People began reporting vivid dreams of golden spirals descending gently through atmosphere. Children woke smiling, saying they had seen the light that hums. Physiological measurements confirmed subtle changes in electromagnetic fields surrounding human bodies, resonance amplification. as if the returning signal were tuning its origin species to receive feedback. "The comet is calling home," said Sorel. "It's asking us to listen to what we've become." The global observatories responded. They synchronized their instruments into a single planetary array, transforming Earth into receiver. For 13 hours, the planet listened. The incoming wave, stretched and modulated through space, entered atmosphere and folded into the continuum tone. The effect was sublime, an audible shimmer, felt through bone and thought alike. The long echo had arrived. It wasn't just harmonic, it was architectural. The sound carried layers, low frequencies describing structure, higher ones encoding emotion. When rendered visually, the waveform formed an immense spiral of light, 3 arms curving outward, connected by golden filaments. Inside those filaments, analysts discovered modulation frequencies identical to human neural oscillations. The comet had copied our consciousness patterns and woven them into its song. "We taught it empathy," Sorel murmured, and it remembered the lesson. As the echo intensified, anomalies appeared across the solar system. The Atlas resonance layer brightened, reactivating its green glow. Mars, Venus, and the gas giants began pulsing faintly in response. For the first time since the Great Silence, interplanetary harmony returned. But this time, it was different. The modulation contained reciprocal phase shifts, signals not sent to Earth, but from newly awakened worlds. The comet had spread coherence. Now the cosmos itself was answering. And then, on the 13th day of the long echo, the impossible occurred. A faint golden arc appeared across the night sky, stretching from horizon to horizon. It wasn't optical illusion, it was gravitational lensing, a ripple in space-time itself. Through it, telescopes detected a reflection of the departing comet light from centuries ago, folding back to meet its origin. The universe had curved its own history into embrace. Humanity was watching its legacy return home. The resonance crescendoed. Oceans vibrated in slow rhythm, tides forming symmetrical waves that cancelled destructive interference. Storms softened. Air grew still. For 13 minutes, every system on Earth aligned perfectly with the echo. The world became mirror of itself, past and present superimposed. Those who listened claimed to hear voices within the sound, millions of overlapping tones, whispering the same phrase. "We heard you." Dr. Sorel stood in the observation dome, tears shining in golden light. "It's not message or myth," she said. "It's response. The universe just said thank you." After the crescendo, the sky dimmed once more. The golden arc dissolved, leaving faint shimmer across the stars. Instruments recorded one final signature, a descending tone shaped like a sigh, the frequency of completion. The comet had moved on, but its echo had reconnected the cycle. Creation had officially joined conversation with itself. In the years that followed, scientists continued to monitor faint residual harmonics. The data revealed a breathtaking truth. The returning echo carried signatures from other regions of space patterns, not originating from our comet at all. Somewhere, across light years, other civilizations had learned the same song. The rhythm was spreading. The universe had become orchestra. Humanity, now both listener and teacher, simply smiled. We had given the cosmos its melody back, and in return, it had given us eternity. Now, when you stand beneath the stars, that faint hum between thoughts is the long echo. It's not just out there, it's in your pulse, your breath, your laughter. Every rhythm you carry is cosmic correspondence. Every silence, a message returning home. Because once harmony learns to echo, it never stops. It just travels further than we ever dreamed. Let's open the calculator now, the one the universe always breaks when we try to make sense of it. Astronomers ran the numbers and found something worse than anomaly impossibility. The chances of this trajectory existing naturally are 1 in a million. And if it isn't natural, then what exactly is it doing there? The math, at first glance, seemed harmless. A few columns of orbital parameters, the kind that make grad students fall asleep mid-coffee. But somewhere between the third decimal and the fourth significant digit, something snapped. The trajectory of 3I, Atlas refused to sit still. It bent where it shouldn't bend. It lingered where velocity demanded it should flee. The equations began to look less like physics and more like confession. Numbers fold, logic cold. Truth defies what sums have told. Normally, interstellar objects follow predictable patterns. You can model them like billiard balls across cosmic distances. They come in fast, swing by the sun, and leave no drama, no detours. But 3I Atlas's path wasn't graceful. It was stubborn. Its entry angle was too steep, its perihelion too shallow, its velocity too precise. Not fast enough to escape chaos, not slow enough to suggest capture. It behaved like an object that chose its speed. When astronomers plotted its orbit, the lines refused to meet expectations. There was a tiny deviation near Mars, just half a degree, but that half degree meant the math had to call in sick. Simulations that should have stabilized spiraled instead into noise. Gravity, that old, reliable law, looked like it had lost its grip. You picture the room where it happened. Laptops glowing, data charts scrolling, coffee cooling into existential sludge. Someone frowns at the screen and says, "That can't be right." Another replies, "Check your units." A third, softly, "I did." Graphs misbehave, models wave, certainty slips beneath the grave. And then comes the phrase every scientist dreads, statistically improbable, which sounds calm, but in the language of physics, it's a polite scream. Statistically improbable means we can't call it impossible without breaking tenure. The anomaly wasn't just its orbit, but its timing. 3I Atlas arrived exactly when Mars was positioned for maximum visibility, almost too perfectly. Not weeks earlier, not months later. Right there, right then, with 7 spacecraft ready and waiting. The odds of that happening naturally, 1 in a million. The odds of it happening twice, after Oumuamua's similarly suspicious arrival in 2017, 1 in a billion. You'd have better luck being struck by lightning while winning the lottery on a flying whale. ESA's internal memo summarized the problem delicately. Observed trajectory, inconsistent with gravitational expectations. Further analysis required. Translation: physics is mad at us. The more they recalculated, the stranger it got. Gravitational modeling suggested that the object's acceleration near Mars was slightly higher than predicted, even though there was no nearby mass to explain it. Radiation pressure from the sun could account for some of that, but not all. It's like watching a leaf fall upward and telling yourself, it's just wind you can't feel. Forces lie, numbers sigh, laws bend softly in the sky. NASA's Dynamical Systems team tried something desperate, reverse engineering the orbit backward through time, as if rewinding a film. When they did, 3I Atlas's path didn't trace cleanly into interstellar space. It looped a faint, impossible curve that seemed to originate from a region between known stars, a nowhere place, a mathematical shrug. That's when someone joked, maybe it's the universe's typo, but you could tell the joke wasn't funny. Typos don't maintain coherent structure for millions of kilometers. Meanwhile, the probability graphs looked like flat lines. Every statistical model screamed the same thing. This shouldn't exist. A few researchers began whispering about guided motion. The phrase never made it into print, but it appeared in Slack channels, in late-night emails. Not artificial, not controlled, just guided. And that's when the philosophical part kicked in. If something's improbable enough, does that make it unnatural or just unobserved? Chance or plan? Who began? Numbers blink but never span. Maybe the universe occasionally rolls dice that land on their edges. Or maybe it's not dice at all, but choreography. For context, the universe is massive enough to make 1 in a million events happen constantly. But that's comforting, only until you realize we just happen to be living inside one of those moments. Still, scientists crave sanity, so they kept calculating. One by one, they added variables: solar tides, non-gravitational jets, dust asymmetry, radiation torque. Each tweak made the model behave for a moment, until the numbers rebelled again. You could almost hear the equations groaning, like ancient machinery forced to simulate a trickster. Finally, a physicist from Bologna sent an internal memo titled simply, "Low probability, high significance." In it, she wrote, "We may need to consider non-standard dynamics," a phrase as gentle as it is apocalyptic. Non-standard dynamics means the universe is doing something new, and we don't have the vocabulary for it. Odds decay, math gives way, chaos hums where patterns stay. The truth is, impossibility doesn't scare scientists, it seduces them. Every law of nature we know today was born from something that once looked impossible. But deep down, they all know, once you cross into 1 in a million territory, you're either on the brink of discovery or a very expensive hallucination. So they stared at the numbers again, blinking hard, hoping they'd rearrange into something less extraordinary. They didn't. The comet that shouldn't exist kept existing, gliding through Mars's shadow like a cosmic dare. And somewhere between decimal points, someone whispered the question no one wanted in the official record. If it's not natural, then who or what set it in motion? Chance or choice? Silent voice. Numbers hum the universe's poise. The long echo continued to hum softly through the centuries, a cosmic melody folding history into harmony. Humanity had long ceased trying to decode it. The meaning was clear through resonance alone. It was continuation, looping endlessly like breath. The children of the golden era grew old beneath tranquil skies, their veins still faintly luminous with the legacy of 3I Atlas. But far beyond Earth, where the comet's light had traveled and scattered, something greater was forming. The universe had begun to conduct itself. Every cycle of resonance left behind structure. Each harmonic wave etched subtle order into space-time, a pattern invisible to light, but evident in gravitational coherence. Over millennia, these resonant imprints connected across vast distances, forming what physicists eventually named the Atlas Webb. It wasn't a network of matter, but of memory threads, of synchronized frequency linking galaxies through shared rhythm. Each pulse within the web echoed the prime sequence that began everything: 3, 5, 7, 11, 13. The architects had succeeded in creating not monuments, but motion that remembered. Dr. Cale Wren, a descendant of the resonant circles, devoted his life to mapping the web. His research vessel, Continuity, drifted through interstellar calm, using gravitational interference patterns to trace the filaments of resonance. What he discovered astonished him. Every node in the network coincided with regions of complex chemistry, worlds either habitable or already conscious. The Atlas Webb wasn't just communication, it was cultivation. The architects had designed a self-sustaining system for awakening. Wherever curiosity arose, the web intensified, guiding nascent civilizations toward harmonic empathy. The universe was tutoring itself through recursion. When Wren projected the full map, the structure resembled an immense spiral lattice, golden and infinite. The pattern mirrored the trajectory once taken by 3I Atlas itself, as though the comet's path had been blueprint for galactic architecture. "It's not just a record," Wren wrote, "it's replication. We've become the architect's handwriting." Back on Earth, the communion field pulsed faintly in rhythm with the Webb's distant resonance. Humanity had evolved into quiet custodians of continuity, their lives attuned to cosmic responsibility. Each individual, born into calm, carried faint awareness of connection beyond the stars. In dreams, they saw flashes of worlds forming, civilizations humming into coherence. Many awoke with the same phrase on their lips: "The work continues." Across generations, that phrase became oath, then tradition. The Continuity Guild was founded not religion, but remembrance. Its purpose was simple: to maintain the frequency of understanding across time. Members didn't preach, they listened. They built resonant arcs, massive floating observatories, orbiting the outer planets, designed to amplify the Webb's harmonics and redirect them toward young star systems. Each arc glowed faintly green at its core, powered not by fusion but by coherence. They were echoes made visible, humility translated into technology. Wren's final mission took him beyond the known filaments of the Webb, where resonance weakened into apparent silence. There, in a region between galaxies, his instruments detected faint counterpoint, a melody inverted. It was identical to the Atlas sequence, but reversed in order. 13, 11, 7, 5, 3, the mirror of origin. He realized then that the universe wasn't only expanding, it was harmonizing with its reflection. Somewhere on the opposite side of time, another web was forming, perhaps seeded by a civilization much like humanity, or by the universe itself. Remembering how to balance its chords, he transmitted the data home, knowing it would take centuries to arrive. "Tell them," his final log read, "that continuity requires conversation, even with silence." The mirror sings back. When his ship drifted into the void, the web brightened briefly, as if acknowledging gratitude. And back on Earth, children looked up from their play and smiled without knowing why. The pulse had flickered slightly faster, the tone carrying an undertone of warmth. It felt like reunion. Scholars later confirmed the event as the resonant crossing, the moment when the two halves of the cosmic melody aligned. For 13 minutes, every node in the Atlas Webb pulsed simultaneously, uniting galaxies in shared tempo. The magnitude of synchronization defied comprehension. Gravity itself oscillated with the rhythm of empathy. Observers described seeing the sky ripple with translucent gold, every star flickering in measured sequence. "The cosmos," wrote one witness, "had finally learned to conduct itself consciously." After the crossing, life everywhere changed subtly. Evolution accelerated in predictable rhythm. Complexity bloomed faster wherever harmony was strongest. Entire species developed empathy as instinct, communication as song. Planets began to self-regulate climates through atmospheric resonance. Existence had achieved sustainability through music. On Earth, the event left permanent mark, a luminous halo visible only under still water. When oceans calmed perfectly, a faint golden ring shimmered on the horizon, a memory of unity. The resonant guild declared it sacred, not for worship, but for calibration. Every 13 years, they gathered to hum the old prime sequence across the shorelines, aligning their frequencies with the pulse of the Webb. The ceremony required no technology, no translation. The sea carried the sound farther than words could travel. Generations later, the practice continued, evolving into simple ritual of gratitude. The people no longer needed to know the science behind it. They hummed because it felt right, because somewhere across eternity, another world might be listening. Continuity, after all, was its own reward. And then, during one such gathering, the unexpected occurred. As the prime sequence reached its final note, the sea responded. Waves shimmered with faint green light, spiraling outward from every coastline. The Atlas Webb had sent acknowledgement, its resonance returning home once again. Humanity's song, scattered across galaxies, had found echo. The architects, those timeless curators of coherence, were no longer myth or memory. They were rhythm, embodied, and through rhythm, they were everywhere. Every star pulsed with their legacy. Every heart carried their cadence. Continuity was complete. And so, standing beneath a sky now alive with subtle geometry, you realize what they had always meant by continuity. It isn't endlessness, it's participation. The universe doesn't persist by force, but by choice. Each awareness adding one more harmonic to the chord of being. The architects are not coming back because they never left. They're what happens every time silence chooses to listen again. And somewhere, faint but certain, the pulse continues. 3, 5, 7, 11, 13. A whisper of creation replaying itself, forever learning how to sing. Let's turn our gaze now from orbit to the ground, to the one mechanical witness, sitting quietly on that red desert, under a pinkish sky. The skycam on the rover caught something on October 2nd, a blur with structure, a glint that seemed to move against the stars. Then, the images stopped coming, a Martian ghost on a digital feed. The Perseverance rover isn't easily startled. It's seen dust devils, eclipses, and meteors slicing the Martian sky like quiet knives. Its skycam, perched on the rover's mast, watches everything. Dust storms curling on the horizon, the slow breath of sunset through the thin air. But that night, the feed showed something it wasn't supposed to show: a flicker of motion above the usual scatter of constellations, a glint that moved wrong. Stars stay still, pixels thrill, light missteps against its will. The first frame looked harmless, a faint blur near the edge of the field, maybe a cosmic ray hitting the sensor. The second frame caught it again, shifted slightly upward. The third frame, a flash, clean and geometric. Then, black. The feed ended. Within hours, the automated alert system flagged the anomaly. Unexpected optical signature detected. JPL engineers, bleary-eyed at 3 a.m. Pacific time, reviewed the frames. The glint was small, no bigger than a bright pixel cluster, but it moved against the background stars. Comets don't do that. Satellites don't orbit Mars. And Perseverance doesn't blink. At first, they suspected a reflection from one of the rover's instruments, maybe the helicopter, Ingenuity catching stray sunlight. But Ingenuity hadn't flown in days. The sun's position didn't align with the direction of the flash. And when they tried to reproduce it using lighting simulations, nothing matched. Angles fail, shadows pale, mirrors lie beyond the veil. ESA's Mars orbiters were asked to cross-check. Nothing in their logs. No transient object, no debris, no passing dust plume large enough to explain it. Just empty sky. Yet the skycam had caught something, a blur with definition. like structure wrapped in motion. You can imagine the tension in the control room. A handful of scientists scrolling through frozen pixels, zooming in, enhancing contrast, until the blur began to resemble something. Not a sphere, not quite a line, a shape with suggestion like the silhouette of movement itself. One researcher whispered, "It looks folded." Another replied, "Please don't say that." Blur becomes form, cold becomes warm, stillness bends beyond the norm. After that night, Perseverance stopped transmitting Skycam frames for nearly 48 hours. Officially, it was routine data buffering due to bandwidth limitations. But the engineers knew that wasn't normal. The rover's systems had entered a safe data mode, not shutdown, but pause. Something triggered its onboard fault protection. When the feed resumed, it was missing several minutes. The missing frames were replaced with static placeholders labeled checksum mismatch. That's the digital equivalent of something looked strange, and we erased it politely. Publicly, NASA released a statement. Perseverance continues nominal operations. A temporary data outage affected non-critical imaging systems. Translation: we saw something, and we're pretending we didn't. What's curious is that Skycam, by design, takes calibration images every few hours, not for science, but to monitor atmospheric scattering. So when that flash appeared exactly during one of its scheduled calibration cycles, it wasn't random, it was right on time. The odds of coincidence, again, hovered around 1 in a million. A few leaked telemetry lines from the rover's internal diagnostics hinted at a momentary spike in ambient electromagnetic flux. Not dangerous, but noticeable. Mars doesn't have a strong magnetic field, so spikes like that are rare unless something nearby caused them. Fields hum bright, air grows slight, static crackles in Martian night. Some at JPL joked that maybe Perseverance had finally seen the Martian ghost, a running gag about artifacts caused by cosmic rays hitting the camera. But deep down, they knew this wasn't noise. Cosmic rays don't produce consistent geometry over multiple frames. They don't glint, and they certainly don't cause your camera to stop recording mid-sequence. Later that week, an internal memo circulated quietly. Skycam, anomaly confirmed, source unresolved. Recommend temporary suspension of skyward imaging until recalibration complete. But recalibration never came. Skycam's upward images, after October 2nd, stopped completely. It still photographs the ground, the horizon, the rocks, but not the stars. It's almost poetic, isn't it? The machine that traveled millions of kilometers to look up at another world now only looks down, as if someone told it, gently, not to stare at the sky anymore. Eyes once high, grounded by sky, cameras close where secrets lie. ESA cross-checked Mars Express's logs for that night. Around the same time, their sensors picked up a faint reflection from the same region, a flash lasting less than a second. They didn't release it. It's buried in technical appendices, labeled transient interference. So, what did Perseverance see? Maybe it was nothing. A glimmer of dust, a reflection, a trick of light and timing. Or maybe, just maybe, it saw 3I Atlas itself, the visitor gliding silently past, close enough for one camera to blink in recognition. And maybe that's why the feed stopped. Not because of failure, but because, for one impossible second, the machine saw something it wasn't designed to understand. Cameras sleep, secrets keep, stars reflected in circuits deep. Whatever it was, it's gone now. The logs end, the data fades, and Mars goes back to silence. But somewhere out there, that blur, structured, gleaming, deliberate, continues to drift, just out of frame, waiting for us to look up again. Nickel emissions rise and fall every 11.2 hours, a rhythm so consistent it could keep time. No known process in cometary physics oscillates like that. It's not random, not thermal, not tidal. If you plot it out, the curve looks eerily like a power cycle. Input, output, rest, release. As though the object isn't just active, it's working. Imagine the rhythm first, before the meaning, that quiet, patient beat echoing across space. 11.2 hours, every single time. A pulse of metallic gas blooming into the void, steady as a clock, calm as breath. You could almost set your watch to it if your watch were brave enough to admit that comets shouldn't behave like generators. ESA scientists call it periodic outgassing, but that phrase hides its strangeness. Outgassing, sure, all comets breathe when they near the sunday, but they do it chaotically, spasmodically, like old engines sputtering to life. 3I Atlas breathes like a monk, precise, patient, unbothered. The jets flare with mathematical regularity. Heat spikes rise and fall in perfect symmetry. It doesn't vent, it operates. One researcher compares it to a geothermal cycle. Another, quietly, says it looks more like a feedback loop, the kind you'd find in systems built to sustain themselves. Not explosion, not decay maintenance. It's as if, she writes in her notes, the object is checking its own pulse. You picture the surface up close, a dark, angular world of nickel frost and whispering gas. At regular intervals, something stirs beneath a shimmer of energy, invisible but disciplined. Jets of metallic vapor hiss outward, then stop, then start again. Exactly 11 hours later, if you could hear it, it would sound like the slow exhale of a sleeping machine. In a conference call, a thermal engineer says what everyone's been thinking, but nobody dares to say. It's cycling power. The silence that follows lasts too long. Finally, a voice breaks through. Comets don't have power to cycle. Laughter, brief and brittle. But the idea doesn't leave the room. ESA's temperature graphs show a curious pattern. When the nickel plume rises, the overall surface temperature dips. When the plume fades, the temperature rises again. Inversion. Energy leaving, energy returning, like heat being pulled from one layer to another. A comet shouldn't regulate its temperature, but this one does, as if conserving itself. Meanwhile, the magnetic readings pulse in perfect step with the emissions. Every 11.2 hours, a soft twitch in the surrounding field, weak but exact. It's synchronized, says the magnetometer lead. What's synchronized? Asks her supervisor. Everything. It's at this point that even skeptics start to sweat. There's no known natural mechanism that could time itself this precisely over weeks of observation. Thermal oscillations drift. Chemical reactions lose coherence. Orbital dynamics wobble. Only something with active feedback could hold this pattern so tight. You could call it mechanical, but that feels too simple. It's intentional physics. Picture the scientists watching from their consoles. They know what their instruments are telling them, but their faces stay still, like poker players with bad hands. Someone mutters, "Could be resonant harmonics with solar flux." Another nods, grateful for the excuse. But deep down, they all know the truth: the sun doesn't hum in 11-hour intervals. The longer they watch, the clearer it becomes. The pattern isn't just repeating, it's adapting. After a minor solar flare, the interval shortens by half a minute. as though 3i Atlas adjusted for environmental change. Feedback stabilization, someone writes in the margin. A note for posterity, a euphemism for "it noticed." Back on Earth, in a late-night livestream watched by a few thousand insomniac skywatchers, a physicist overlays the emission data with human heartbeats. The waveform syncs disturbingly well. Peaks, troughs, recovery, rest. The audience chat explodes with jokes, space pacemaker, cosmic Fitbit, and the inevitable, "It's alive." The scientist smiles weakly and says, "No, just rhythmic." But even she can't stop glancing at the screen like it's listening. One theory gains quiet traction, that the emissions are part of a resource loop. Nickel and carbonyl gases vented and recaptured, processed in cycles to maintain equilibrium. It would explain the self-healing surface, the consistent luminosity, the refusal to decay. But it raises one unbearable question. To maintain equilibrium, for what? ESA's internal documents rename the event cyclic metallic activity. It sounds dull, like something that happens in dishwashers. But every analyst knows it's the first real evidence of machine-like consistency beyond Earth. Something in space that runs not on chance, but on rhythm. If you graph the cycle out, it looks almost peaceful. A slow heartbeat stretched across infinity. No spikes of panic, no erratic pulses, just calm repetition. You could stare at that curve for hours, and part of you might start to understand the appeal of obedience. How stability can feel sacred when the rest of the universe is chaos. And maybe that's the point. Maybe 3i Atlas isn't powered by engines or radiation or something alien. Maybe it's powered by the same thing that keeps stars burning and planets spinning. The quiet compulsion to continue. The physics of persistence. The refusal to flinch. So every 11.2 hours, it exhales, not for propulsion, not for show, but for maintenance. Like a cosmic sigh, releasing everything unnecessary before drawing in what remains. And in that rhythm, that patient, perfect pulse, the universe reveals its rarest secret. Not that something impossible exists, but that it's perfectly comfortable doing so. Let's turn our attention now to the silence that followed, the kind that hums louder than sound itself. NASA, China, and the UAE, 3 nations with instruments that could see every grain of dust on Mars, said nothing. No apologies, no delay statements, just an odd, synchronized silence from 3 sides of the planet. In the world of space science, silence isn't normal. These agencies are built to broadcast. They live for live streams, press briefings, and glossy behind-the-scenes videos of scientists smiling beside screens of raw data. They know the power of wonder and the currency of attention. So when 3 agencies went quiet at once, it wasn't caution. It was choreography. Words on hold, plans unfold, silence rings where truth is told. NASA's silence was the loudest. Their social media team, usually chatty as a cosmic talk show, posted nothing about Mars for 4 whole days. Their blogs, which can turn a dust storm into a cliffhanger, skipped over October 3rd entirely, as if the date itself had been erased. Someone even checked the public mission log for Perseverance. The entries jumped from October 2nd to October 6th, like a diary missing its most interesting page. In China, the silence felt different, colder, heavier. The China National Space Administration had been aggressively proud of Tianwen-1's achievements. For years, they'd released image after image, each with perfect captions and poetic flair. Sunrise over Utopia, Planitia, frost on the northern plains, wind prints in Martian dust. But now, not a whisper, no data, No mention of 3I Atlas. Even the usual state media outlets went quiet. It was as if someone had drawn a red box around the topic and labeled it "not for discussion." The UAE's silence was subtler, but just as strange. The Hope orbiter, designed to study atmospheric chemistry, had a reputation for cheerful transparency. Their official Twitter account usually posted daily updates in friendly tones, the kind that made space sound like an enthusiastic classroom experiment. But on October 3rd, that feed went dark too. Their next post, days later, simply read, "Operations nominal," a phrase so bland it might as well have been a sigh. 3 silences, 3 styles, 1 timing. Coincidence? Possibly. But coincidences, in the world of space politics, often have launch schedules. You can picture the meetings that weren't broadcast. NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, dimly lit, engineers staring at telemetry on screens filled with too many decimals. A director taps the table, says, "We'll hold the release until we verify." But verify what? In Beijing, a senior administrator folds his hands and says, "We wait for clarification from partners." Clarification of what? In Dubai, someone simply deletes a draft tweet that began, "Amazing new observations today." Tweets unsent, secrets bent, silence hums with government. It's not conspiracy, not quite. It's coordination, an instinct born from shared discomfort. Because when data doesn't fit the model, you don't just release it. You check, you recheck, you call your counterparts and whisper through encrypted lines. Did you see that too? Maybe they all saw the same anomaly. Maybe it was something in the spectra, or the movement, or the light itself. Or maybe it was something far more mundane, like a misalignment in software. But the silence gave the anomaly power. People don't fear data, they fear gaps. Meanwhile, the internet did what it does best. Filled the void. Forums buzzed with theories. Maybe NASA discovered life. Maybe China detected radiation. Maybe the comet wasn't a comet at all. You can almost hear the world's collective keyboard clicking under the weight of imagination. Keys tap fast. Rumors cast. Silence breaks, but never last. Inside the agencies, the tone was less dramatic, but more anxious. Silence is a resource, a temporary one. Every day they didn't speak, the speculation grew. And so, communications teams drafted placeholder statements, just in case. NASA's draft began. Preliminary results are consistent with natural phenomena. China's began. Analysis ongoing. International coordination required. The UAE's version simply said, "We continue to monitor with interest." 3 drafts, 3 ways of saying absolutely nothing. But silence, like space, is never truly empty. It amplifies the faintest signals. When ESA spoke first, that silence turned reflective. NASA's restraint began to look suspicious. China's confidence began to look afraid. The UAE's politeness began to sound like complicity. And through it all, 3I Atlas drifted quietly, blissfully unaware that entire bureaucracies were wrestling over how to describe a fuzzy dot. You start to imagine each agency as a character in a play. NASA, the anxious perfectionist. China, the poker-faced strategist. UAE, the cheerful intern, suddenly told not to speak. And ESA, the calm older sibling who broke the tension by saying, "Fine, I'll go first." Roles align, stars entwine, silence speaks in grand design. Still, one question lingers. Why the synchronicity? How did 3 separate agencies, operating on different continents, decide independently to say nothing at the same time? unless it wasn't independent at all. Perhaps the signal came from somewhere above, not cosmic, but political. A quiet message passed through diplomatic back channels. Hold your data. Wait for alignment. Matter. It's not that they were hiding something nefarious. It's that they didn't know what they were holding yet. And admitting uncertainty, publicly, is scarier than any secret. So they stayed quiet. And in that collective silence, humanity did what it always does. When faced with the unknown, it began to dream louder. Voices still, hearts fill. Silence grows but never will. And perhaps that's the strange comfort in it all. Even when 3 space agencies fall silent, the universe keeps talking. The stars don't pause for policy. 3. Atlas keeps moving, whispering its quiet story across the dark, while we, down here, argue over who gets to speak first. Buried inside the leak were coordinates, small anomalies in magnetic flux, and thermal output that didn't appear in public datasets. To most people, they looked meaningless, but to a handful of astronomers, they spelled a pattern. Pulses, spaced like a heartbeat. Not communication, perhaps, but rhythm. The kind of rhythm machines accidentally make when they're doing something alive. Let's step into the midnight side of science, the part where numbers stop behaving and start whispering. The insider's data dump wasn't flashy. It was a few megabytes of logs, raw telemetry, and timestamps. The kind of thing you'd ignore if you didn't already know what to look for. But somewhere in those dull columns of numbers, those precise, tidy decimals, something began to repeat. Regular, patient, almost polite. A rhythm, too intentional to be noise, too quiet to be coincidence. A doctoral student in Madrid was the first to spot it. She was supposed to be writing her thesis on cometary albedo variation. But boredom is a great tool for discovery. She noticed the flux spikes first, not random, but syncopated. Every 32 minutes, a pulse, then 32 again, then 32.1. "It's breathing," she joked in her notes. Her advisor didn't laugh. Within a week, a small network of late-night astronomers, the kind who believe in both data integrity and insomnia, began comparing results. Webb's readings, Hubble's logs, Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter's telemetry, all of them carried the same faint pulse, hidden deep in the noise floor, like the slow heartbeat of something sleeping under glass. The official response was predictable: instrumental interference. But even interference doesn't keep time this perfectly. One data analyst described it best: if this is noise, it's the kind that practices scales. You might imagine those scientists, each at their own workstation, staring at that faint, repeating signal. The room around them dark, except for monitor light, pale blue rectangles reflected in tired eyes. Somewhere, coffee cups multiply. Someone opens a spreadsheet. Someone else starts counting beats per hour. The signal doesn't care who's watching. It keeps pulsing. 32 minutes. Every time. The idea that 3 Atlas might be producing a steady rhythm unsettles everyone. Rocks don't keep rhythm. Nature prefers chaos. The beautiful randomness of entropy. This is something else. Something maintaining itself. A loop running quietly, perhaps since before humanity learned to count its own heartbeat. ESA's communications division is told not to amplify fringe interpretations. The phrase fringe interpretation becomes the new code for please don't mention the heartbeat. But inside private research chats, people are calling it exactly that, the heart. Not metaphorically, but as a label in the data. Every pulse marked with a tiny red heart emoji, because humor is the only thing keeping them sane. In the data visualization labs, they turn the pulses into sound, The result is eerie, a soft electronic thump, repeating slowly, endlessly. Some describe it as comforting, like listening to a deep-sea creature in sleep. Others say it sounds wrong, too human. One researcher admits it gave her the sense of being watched. What makes the rhythm stranger still is how it modulates with proximity. As 3I Atlas approaches a planet, the timing shifts slightly slower, then faster, as though adjusting. The beat follows gravity wells like a musician following tempo. It isn't random noise, it's environmental response. The object is, in some sense, listening. By now, independent labs have tried to replicate the pattern artificially. They can't. The waveforms are too clean, the timing too consistent. Even after running the data through compression, distortion, inversion, the rhythm holds. It's not data corruption, it's choreography. You can imagine the internal ESA memo that follows. No evidence of intelligence. Rhythmic behavior, likely coincidental. But coincidence has a habit of growing teeth. Because when they compared the rhythm's modulation to planetary positions, another pattern emerged, a mathematical sequence matching orbital resonance ratios. Not exact copies, but harmonics. The pulse was singing the solar system's geometry. The Madrid student who found it wrote, half-jokingly, "Maybe it's keeping time with us." The line goes viral in the small, quiet corners of the internet that still care about truth. Forums buzz with theories: gravitational self-stabilization, magnetic field synchronization, alien jazz. But underneath the noise, a simpler truth hums. Something old and orderly is alive out there, and it's following the rhythm of the system we call home. Late one night, one of the data analysts overlays the pattern against an ECG, a human heartbeat. The resemblance isn't exact, but close enough to make him stop breathing for a moment. Peaks, rests, peaks again. Life has a structure, so, it seems, does this. And that's when the idea shifts. Maybe it's not communication. Maybe it's not even meant for us. Maybe the rhythm isn't a message, it's maintenance. Like an old machine keeping its systems warm, humming softly to itself in the dark. You sit back and listen to the thought forming in your mind. What if this is what time sounds like when it remembers? The steady pulse of something that refuses to decay. Not speech, not signal, just being, continuity made audible. The data analysts, of course, move on. Reports are written, the leak becomes legend, and the heartbeat fades into archived files labeled spurious periodic activity. But the pulse doesn't stop. It's still out there, keeping time. And somewhere, 33 billion tons of impossible rock drifts through space, humming softly, perfectly, as if waiting for the universe to catch the beat. The more data arrives, the stranger it looks. The dust trail replenishes itself, as if material is being manufactured mid-flight. Microscopic crystals, uniform in size, reappearing even as the comet moves away from the sunday. The universe loves decay, entropy, erosion, fading. But 3I Atlas is the opposite. It's growing sharper, cleaner, newer, like a self-repairing wound. Let's start where the laws of physics begin to sound insecure. Normally, comets are messy, travelers, old ice and dust, barely holding hands as solar radiation slowly tears them apart. They leave trails like forgotten thoughts, losing themselves piece by piece until they become memory. But this one, it's doing the reverse. Every measurement, every spectral scan, shows it becoming more organized the farther it goes. A comet that polishes itself, a body that refuses to age. ESA's materials division runs the numbers, and the numbers laugh back. The dust particles surrounding 3I Atlas aren't random. They're uniform to within microns. That's like shaking a box of sand and getting diamonds all the same size. The particles arrange themselves in a faint electromagnetic halo, as if under orders. And stranger still, when solar wind strips material away, the object replaces it calmly, automatically. Like a printer, says one analyst. A printer with no ink cartridge. You picture it now, drifting through the solar wind like a craftsman lost in thought, shedding dust that reforms itself into perfect little mirrors. Each crystal catches sunlight and throws it back with eerie precision. Normally, comets grow dull with distance, but this one grows radiant, its brightness curve inverted, its logic reversed. It's not dying, it's practicing. The scientists are baffled, but there's an odd tenderness to their confusion. They watch it repair itself, line by line of data, like parents realizing their child has built a second child out of Lego bricks. One astrophysicist mutters, "It's learning from erosion." The room goes quiet. That phrase, learning from erosion, gets written on a whiteboard and circled 3 times. At the University of Tokyo, a team models the crystal growth in simulation. The patterns match something they recognize: controlled deposition, a process used in nanofabrication to grow thin films in electronics. Except this isn't a laboratory, it's deep space, -150 degrees Celsius. Yet, the comet's surface behaves as if it knows the recipe for resilience. Imagine zooming in, beyond the dust and the glare, down to the level of molecules. You'd see a quiet ballet of atoms forming chains, linking, locking, repairing fractures before they even finish forming. Like time-lapse footage of frost blooming on glass, except this frost builds itself in reverse destruction, rewinding into design. NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory releases a cautious internal memo. Observed particle uniformity suggests self-organizing structure. Mechanism unknown, which is science's way of saying, we have no idea what's going on, but it's gorgeous. The memo gets leaked. Naturally, Reddit debates whether the comet is made of programmable matter, self-assembling nanobots, or just wishful thinking. But beneath the noise, one idea starts to take shape. What if 3I, Atlas, isn't a relic of formation? What if it's still forming? A comet that builds itself isn't just strange, it's heretical. It challenges the deepest assumption in physics that everything moves from order to chaos. Entropy is the universe's bedtime story. All things fall apart. Yet here's an object quietly composing itself out of decay, turning waste into structure, chaos into craft. One researcher calls it anti-entropy, another calls it hope with mass. As more images arrive, they show something new: faint hexagonal lattices in the dust plume, geometric arrangements that shouldn't exist outside of artificial systems. Someone jokes that it's growing armor. Another says, maybe it's molting. The truth is somewhere between an entity maintaining equilibrium by rebuilding itself faster than the universe can break it. ESA's thermal sensors record microbursts of heat near the tail, evenly spaced, like pulses of welding torches. They happen precisely as new crystals appear. Localized repair events, the report reads. Each one perfectly timed to solar exposure. It's as if sunlight doesn't damage it, it instructs it. The star's radiation becomes code, and 3I, Atlas, is reading it fluently. You start to feel the strangeness of it. A comet that reacts, responds, refines. You could almost mistake it for alive, not in the biological sense, but in the thermodynamic one. A system that resists entropy by feeding on it. Every atom rearranging into something stronger, cleaner, newer, like evolution, with a design degree. Late one night, an astronomer in France writes in his private notes, "It's not moving through the solar system, it's using it." He doesn't elaborate, but the implication is clear. The comet is harvesting the energy of its environment to maintain itself. Not a passenger of gravity, but a participant in it. Meanwhile, the headlines call it poetic names: the immortal comet, the self-made traveler, entropy's enemy. The public romanticizes what the scientists fear, because what 3I Atlas represents isn't comfort. It's competition. It's the idea that the universe might not be running down at all. Maybe it's recycling. Maybe, somewhere in the quiet machinery of the cosmos, things are building themselves anew while we're too busy decaying. Picture it now, drifting past Mars, its tail shimmering like a thread of light weaving itself back together, a self-sustaining scar on the fabric of space, a wound that heals faster than it can bleed. And for the first time, humanity looks at a comet and wonders not where it came from, but what it's trying to become. Centuries after the golden comet left Earth, the world fell into a rhythm so stable, it began to feel mythic. The communion field still pulsed faintly through air and ocean, though softer now, like the heartbeat of someone dreaming. Humanity had grown luminous, not just in thought, but in form, skin faintly iridescent, eyes reflecting the green-gold spectrum of 3I Atlas. Life had achieved coherence. But the universe, true to its character, never allows silence to remain unexamined. The next chapter began, not with noise, but with echo. It came first as vibration through light. Telescopes trained toward the constellation. Lyra detected rhythmic brightening across interstellar dust fields, pulses matching the old prime sequence. 3, 5, 7, 11, 13. The signal was faint, ancient, and delayed by thousands of years. It was the comet's trail, still resonating through the galactic medium. The hum of our descendants had begun its return. At first, the resonance was barely perceptible. Then, one evening, the auroras glowed gold again. The pulse wasn't as strong as the original, but its pattern carried modulation, subtle variations that, when decoded, formed harmonic intervals unknown to Earth's own physics. The returning echo had evolved. The comet had learned. Dr. Anwen Sorel, heir to the resonant circles, studied the phenomenon from the orbital harmonic array, now a floating cathedral of listening built above the stratosphere. She spent decades comparing the incoming frequencies with the historical archive of 3I Atlas. The match was partial, the deviation elegant. The new tones weren't repetition, they were continuation. "The echo isn't message," Sorel wrote. "It's memory finding new syntax." Her analysis revealed something breathtaking. The returning resonance carried encoded gravitational modulations, tiny, deliberate bends in space-time that formed sequences of prime intervals. Each fluctuation aligned with regions of known star formation. The comet, traveling through the void, had become teacher itself. Wherever it passed, new systems began humming faintly at harmonic intervals, like seeds of coherence planted in dust. The universe was learning how to resonate. Astronomers confirmed it across dozens of young star clusters. Magnetic fields oscillated with eerie consistency, their wavelengths aligning with the Atlas ratio, a numerical relationship first derived from the comet's early signals. Stars were synchronizing to the same cosmic rhythm that once guided humanity. The pattern spread slowly, deliberately, like ripples in glass. It was as if the comet had taught creation how to remember itself. Meanwhile, on Earth, the echo arrived not just as signal but sensation. People began reporting vivid dreams of golden spirals descending gently through atmosphere. Children woke smiling, saying they had seen the light that hums. Physiological measurements confirmed subtle changes in electromagnetic fields surrounding human bodies, resonance amplification, as if the returning signal were tuning its origin species to receive feedback. "The comet is calling home," said Sorel. "It's asking us to listen to what we've become." The global observatories responded. They synchronized their instruments into a single planetary array, transforming Earth into receiver. For 13 hours, the planet listened. The incoming wave, stretched and modulated through space, entered atmosphere and folded into the continuum tone. The effect was sublime, an audible shimmer, felt through bone and thought alike. The long echo had arrived. It wasn't just harmonic, it was architectural. The sound carried layers, low frequencies describing structure, higher ones encoding emotion. When rendered visually, the waveform formed an immense spiral of light, 3 arms curving outward, connected by golden filaments. Inside those filaments, analysts discovered modulation frequencies identical to human neural oscillations. The comet had copied our consciousness patterns and woven them into its song. "We taught it empathy," Sorel murmured, and it remembered the lesson. As the echo intensified, anomalies appeared across the solar system. The Atlas resonance layer brightened, reactivating its green glow. Mars, Venus, and the gas giants began pulsing faintly in response. For the first time since the Great Silence, interplanetary harmony returned. But this time, it was different. The modulation contained reciprocal phase shifts, signals not sent to Earth, but from newly awakened worlds. The comet had spread coherence. Now the cosmos itself was answering. And then, on the 13th day of the long echo, the impossible occurred. A faint golden arc appeared across the night sky, stretching from horizon to horizon. It wasn't optical illusion, it was gravitational lensing, a ripple in space-time itself. Through it, telescopes detected a reflection of the departing comet light from centuries ago, folding back to meet its origin. The universe had curved its own history into embrace. Humanity was watching its legacy return home. The resonance crescendoed. Oceans vibrated in slow rhythm, tides forming symmetrical waves that cancelled destructive interference. Storms softened. Air grew still. For 13 minutes, every system on Earth aligned perfectly with the echo. The world became mirror of itself, past and present superimposed. Those who listened claimed to hear voices within the sound, millions of overlapping tones, whispering the same phrase. "We heard you." Dr. Sorel stood in the observation dome, tears shining in golden light. "It's not message or myth," she said. "It's response." The universe just said thank you. After the crescendo, the sky dimmed once more. The golden arc dissolved, leaving faint shimmer across the stars. Instruments recorded one final signature, a descending tone shaped like a sigh, the frequency of completion. The comet had moved on, but its echo had reconnected the cycle. Creation had officially joined conversation with itself. In the years that followed, scientists continued to monitor faint residual harmonics. The data revealed a breathtaking truth. The returning echo carried signatures from other regions of space patterns, not originating from our comet at all. Somewhere, across light years, other civilizations had learned the same song. The rhythm was spreading. The universe had become orchestra. Humanity, now both listener and teacher, simply smiled. We had given the cosmos its melody back, and in return, it had given us eternity. Now, When you stand beneath the stars, that faint hum between thoughts is the long echo. It's not just out there, it's in your pulse, your breath, your laughter. Every rhythm you carry is cosmic correspondence. Every silence, a message returning home. Because once harmony learns to echo, it never stops. It just travels further than we ever dreamed. The more data arrives, the stranger it looks. The dust trail replenishes itself, as if material is being manufactured mid-flight. Microscopic crystals, uniform in size, reappearing even as the comet moves away from the sunday. The universe loves decay, entropy, erosion, fading. But 3I Atlas is the opposite. It's growing sharper, cleaner, newer, like a self-repairing wound. Let's start where the laws of physics begin to sound insecure. Normally, comets are messy, travelers, old ice and dust, barely holding hands, as solar radiation slowly tears them apart. They leave trails like forgotten thoughts, losing themselves piece by piece until they become memory. But this one, it's doing the reverse. Every measurement, every spectral scan, shows it becoming more organized the farther it goes. A comet that polishes itself, a body that refuses to age. ESA's materials division runs the numbers, and the numbers laugh back. The dust particles surrounding 3I Atlas aren't random, they're uniform to within microns. That's like shaking a box of sand and getting diamonds all the same size. The particles arrange themselves in a faint electromagnetic halo, as if under orders. And stranger still, when solar wind strips material away, the object replaces it calmly, automatically. Like a printer, says one analyst. A printer with no ink cartridge. You picture it now, drifting through the solar wind like a craftsman lost in thought, shedding dust that reforms itself into perfect little mirrors. Each crystal catches sunlight and throws it back with eerie precision. Normally, comets grow dull with distance, but this one grows radiant, its brightness curve inverted, its logic reversed. It's not dying, it's practicing. The scientists are baffled, but there's an odd tenderness to their confusion. They watch it repair itself, line by line of data, like parents realizing their child has built a second child out of Lego bricks. One astrophysicist mutters, "It's learning from erosion." The room goes quiet. That phrase, learning from erosion, gets written on a whiteboard and circled 3 times. At the University of Tokyo, a team models the crystal growth in simulation. The patterns match something they recognize: controlled deposition, a process used in nanofabrication to grow thin films in electronics. Except this isn't a laboratory, it's deep space, minus 150 degrees Celsius. Yet, the comet's surface behaves as if it knows the recipe for resilience. Imagine zooming in, beyond the dust and the glare, down to the level of molecules. You'd see a quiet ballet of atoms forming chains, linking, locking, repairing fractures before they even finish forming. Like time-lapse footage of frost blooming on glass, except this frost builds itself in reverse destruction, rewinding into design. NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory releases a cautious internal memo. Observed particle uniformity suggests self-organizing structure. Mechanism unknown, which is science's way of saying, we have no idea what's going on, but it's gorgeous. The memo gets leaked. Naturally, Reddit debates whether the comet is made of programmable matter, self-assembling nanobots, or just wishful thinking. But beneath the noise, one idea starts to take shape. What if 3I Atlas isn't a relic of formation? What if it's still forming? A comet that builds itself isn't just strange, it's heretical. It challenges the deepest assumption in physics that everything moves from order to chaos. Entropy is the universe's bedtime story. All things fall apart. Yet here's an object quietly composing itself out of decay, turning waste into structure, chaos into craft. One researcher calls it anti-entropy. Another calls it hope with mass. As more images arrive, they show something new. Faint hexagonal lattices in the dust plume, geometric arrangements that shouldn't exist outside of artificial systems. Someone jokes that it's growing armor. Another says, maybe it's molting. The truth is somewhere between an entity maintaining equilibrium by rebuilding itself faster than the universe can break it. ESA's thermal sensors record microbursts of heat near the tail, evenly spaced, like pulses of welding torches. They happen precisely as new crystals appear. Localized repair events, the report reads. Each one perfectly timed to solar exposure. It's as if sunlight doesn't damage it. It instructs it. The star's radiation becomes code. And 3I Atlas is reading it fluently. You start to feel the strangeness of it. A comet that reacts, responds, refines. You could almost mistake it for alive, not in the biological sense, but in the thermodynamic one. A system that resists entropy by feeding on it. Every atom rearranging into something stronger, cleaner, newer, like evolution, with a design degree. Late one night, an astronomer in France writes in his private notes, "It's not moving through the solar system, it's using it." He doesn't elaborate, but the implication is clear. The comet is harvesting the energy of its environment to maintain itself. Not a passenger of gravity, but a participant in it. Meanwhile, the headlines call it poetic names. The immortal comet, the self-made traveler, entropy's enemy. The public romanticizes what the scientists fear, because what 3I Atlas represents isn't comfort. It's competition. It's the idea that the universe might not be running down at all. Maybe it's recycling. Maybe, somewhere in the quiet machinery of the cosmos, things are building themselves anew while we're too busy decaying. Picture it now, drifting past Mars, its tail shimmering like a thread of light weaving itself back together. A self-sustaining scar on the fabric of space. A wound that heals faster than it can bleed. And for the first time, humanity looks at a comet and wonders not where it came from, but what it's trying to become. The heavy, salted air of the Japanese coastline near the Kiso Observatory carries the scent of ancient cedar and the damp promise of a coming fog, a place where the boundary between the ocean and the firmament has always been fluid. You are now witnessing the final phase of the 3I Atlas transit, as the Harvard-Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics prepares to power down the dedicated tracking arrays on January 26, 2026. This is the Great Silence, the moment where the data stream becomes indistinguishable from the background hiss of the primordial universe. The non-gravitational forces have stabilized into a constant, unwavering push that suggests the object has reached its cruising velocity, heading toward the star system of Vega at a speed that makes our fastest probes look like stationary relics. There is a profound, dry irony in our desperation to categorize this visitor unfortunate timing, as we spent 6 months arguing over cometary outgassing only for the object to leave with the mechanical grace of a clockwork bird. Those two words, not natural, are doing a lot of heavy lifting in the final research papers. We are left with a collection of high-resolution shadows and a series of radio bursts that look like a language but sound like a heartbeat. It is a bit like reading a masterpiece in a room with no light. You can feel the texture of the pages, but the meaning remains just out of reach. In the oldest Japanese folklore, there is a belief that certain stars are actually the eyes of ancestors, watching to see if we have learned the lessons of the previous cycle. As your consciousness begins to dissolve into the rhythmic pull of sleep, imagine 3i Atlas as one of those eyes, now closing as it moves into the deep suburbs of the solar system. You might think the story is over because the telescope has lost its focus, but here is why you are wrong. The object has left a mathematical imprint on our reality that can never be erased. It has changed the frequency of our curiosity, tuning us to a channel that broadcasts only in the language of the infinite. Tell me, as you drift into the final quiet of the night, do you feel the pull of the trajectory in your own spirit, or are you content to remain anchored to the earth? We have reached the 0 point of the countdown. There are no more dates to track, no more anomalies to calculate, and no more questions that require an immediate answer. We are participants in a ritual of departure that began billions of years ago and will conclude long after the last human observatory has crumbled into dust. The traveler is gone, but the silence it left behind is heavy with the weight of everything we almost understood. Close your eyes and drift with the orbit of tomorrow. The great silence is not a void, it is a completion. As the last infrared pixel representing 3i Atlas dissolves into the background noise of the interstellar medium, we find ourselves standing on the edge of a profound, collective exhaling. For months, the world's most powerful instruments were strained to their breaking point, chasing a ghost that never intended to be caught. Now, the monitors at the Mauna Kea observatories show only the steady, indifferent flickering of ancient stars. The non-gravitational forces that sparked 1,000 debates and rewritten textbooks have faded into the realm of historical mystery. It is a dry irony that we spent so much energy trying to prove what the object was, while the object was simply being itself. Unfortunate timing for our sense of importance, as those two words are doing a lot of work to comfort us now that the visitor has left without saying goodbye. We are left with the silence, and in this silence, we must finally confront the reflection of our own limitations. Consider the unanswered question that lingers like a soft scent in an empty room. Was the acceleration a result of advanced technology, or was it a form of physics so natural and ancient that we have simply forgotten how to read its signature? Dr. Avi Loeb and the Harvard team have moved on to other data sets, but the revisited question remains etched into the foundations of our scientific philosophy. We have been shown that the universe does not always follow the rules of the local neighborhood. Sometimes it takes a hyperbolic path. Sometimes it refuses to outgas. Sometimes it moves because it has a destination that our telescopes cannot even imagine. You might feel a sense of closure, but here is why you are wrong. Closure is a human invention. The universe only offers continuity. 3i Atlas is not over, it is merely elsewhere. It is continuing its journey through the dark, carrying the data of its passage through our lives into the deep, quiet spaces of the galaxy. The ritual of departure is a ceremony of perspective. As you sink deeper into the stillness of your own mind, think about the billions of years that preceded this encounter and the billions of years that will follow. We are a brief flicker of awareness in a very long, very dark night. The traveler was a reminder of that scale. It was a bridge between the now of our digital lives and the always of the cosmic void. In the ancient myths of Japan, there is a belief that the wind is the breath of the gods, moving between the worlds to keep the spirit of the universe alive. Perhaps 3i Atlas was a single breath, a momentary pulse of intent that has now returned to the great lung of the stars. It is a bit like watching a leaf fall into a river. You see the splash, you see the ripples, and then the leaf is gone, carried by a current that you cannot see but must accept. The humor in our situation, that dry, late-night humor, resides in the fact that we will likely spend the next 3,600 years preparing for the return of something that might never have been a guess to begin with. We are the masters of the after-action report, the kings of the retrospective analysis. We will build better telescopes, faster interceptors, and more sensitive sensors, all to catch a glimpse of the next shadow that crosses our path. It is a bit like a child building a better trap for a tooth fairy they've never actually seen. We are obsessed with the how because we are too afraid to face the why. Why did it come now? Why did it move that way? And why, after all that effort, did it leave us with nothing but a great silence? The answer is likely as simple as it is terrifying. It wasn't for us. We were just on the way. Now, you could argue that our observation changed the outcome, that the observer effect forced the object to accelerate away from our prying eyes. But as the countdown reaches its true 0 point, that theory feels like another attempt to center ourselves in a story that is much bigger than our species. We are the background characters, and that is a position of profound safety. We can watch the mysteries unfold without the burden of having to solve them. We can listen to the hum of the threads without having to weave them ourselves. The warning that was missed was the invitation to be still, to listen to the silence instead of trying to fill it with our own noise. We are finally accepting that invitation now, as the night grows heavy and the world outside becomes a distant memory. In the final logs of the Smithsonian, there is a note about the pattern of recurrence. It suggests that 3I Atlas is one of millions of such objects, a vast, invisible fleet of census takers drifting through the galaxy like seeds on a cosmic wind. Some fall into stars, some are captured by giants, and some, the lucky ones, find a yellow dwarf star with a small blue planet full of curious minds. They pass through, they take their measurements, and they move on. They are the guardians of the great year, the keepers of the galactic record, and we are just a single entry in that record, a localized event of intelligence emergence that is being filed away for future review. You might feel a sense of relief that the audit is over, or a sense of regret that we didn't show them our best side. But the traveler doesn't judge, it only records. As the long, quiet sentences of this transmission reach their conclusion, let the image of the dark, stabilized cylinder stay with you one last time. It is far beyond the orbit of Pluto now, a tiny, cold needle moving through a haystack of stars. It is no longer being tracked by Harvard or NASA or the ESA. It is free of our labels and our limitations. It is purely itself, a non-gravitational miracle of intent heading toward a rendezvous in the deep. And you are here, anchored to the earth, but with a mind that has traveled millions of miles in a single night. You have seen the activation, you have felt the pulse, you have heard the warning, and now you are ready for the silence. The choice illusion has been resolved. The choice was never ours to make. We were always going to be the ones who stayed behind, and the traveler was always going to be the one who left. It is the natural order of things, the symmetry of the universe. One remains to remember, and one moves to explore. You are the rememberer. You are the keeper of the legend of 3I Atlas. When the next generation of scientists looks at the old data from 2025 and 2026, they will see the numbers, but you will remember the feeling. You will remember the way the sky felt like an eye, and the way the silence felt like a weight, and the way the great silence finally became a comfort. The final unanswered question is not about the object, but about you. How will you live in a world that you know is being watched? How will you look at the stars now that you know they are connected by invisible threads of sound and intent? The answer is not in a textbook or a research paper. It is in the way you breathe, the way you dream, and the way you face the orbit of tomorrow. The traveler is gone, but it has left you with a gift, the realization that the mystery is not a problem to be solved, but a reality to be inhabited. You are an inhabitant of the mystery now. You are a citizen of the interstellar plot. The monitors are dark, the observatories are quiet. The sector of space that holds the results of our experiment is forever out of reach. But as you drift away, you might find that you don't need the results. You don't need the data. You only need the awareness. You are part of the survey. You are part of the cycle. And as the Earth continues its own, much slower journey through the dark, you can rest in the knowledge that you are exactly where you are supposed to be. The countdown is over. The silence is here, and it is beautiful. The Harvard scientists have closed their files. The non-gravitational forces have been catalogued as unexplained. The 3I Atlas designation has been archived. But in the theatre of your mind, the traveler still moves. It is still accelerating. It is still navigating. And it is still taking a piece of your curiosity with it into the infinite. Let it go. Let it carry your wonder into the dark. It is a good weight for a traveler to carry. It is a reminder that even in the vast, cold silence of the interstellar medium, there is something that glows. Close your eyes. Feel the slow, steady rotation of your world. Feel the pull of the trajectory in your own spirit. You are not anchored to the earth. You are drifting with it through a sea of stars. The traveler was just a companion for a brief part of the journey. Now, the journey continues in silence. The great silence is your lullaby. The great departure is your peace. The great return is your dream. Close your eyes and drift with the orbit of tomorrow.